Hattie.
Addy, I need to find out what's going on with this. Hang on.
Let's see. You're in like Sparkle Zone over there.
Yeah.
Why, hello, everyone.
David's here too.
Wow, we got all kinds of people showing up tonight.
And this is one of those, we'll let anybody in.
I'll be right back.
Hey, don't threaten me.
Right? Oh.
Okay.
I'm
sending you a new script. It's 5 pages long. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah. I'm sending you.
Excuse me.
Holy cows.
I don't know if I can make it to midnight, but I'll try.
That's all right. You don't got to make it to midnight. Can I hear you, David? You out there?
I'm here.
Oh, you're just quiet.
Yo, can you stream me too?
Maybe.
Oh, I'll get the main screen.
No.
Oh, okay, not so
Yeah,
much.
you can have the main screen. Come on, he's not always on here.
No, that's fine. I'm fine with this.
Alright.
This makes me fine.
Yeah, this actually works because I don't think we can do two small and 3 large. This is going to be difficult. That's all right. This is good enough. Ain't good enough?
Okay, I'm back.
Hi, back. I'm Dad.
Hi, Dad. How are you doing?
I can't help it. It's compulsive. Oh, man. Oh, rata. Now I got to get this thing to turn its butt around.
So, are we going to discuss AI art tonight?
Are we going to discuss the elephant in the room?
Yes.
Hey, don't call me that. That's mean. Oh, wait.
What are we discussing about AI art?
Well, so first thing is so AI art's starting to kind of do that thing. It's getting charged up.
It's starting to become the next NFT.
Right. So I'm concerned. I'm concerned about like that blanket statement of, oh, you use AI art, you're not a real artist. Even if you just use it for like what Brian, what we were doing before, what Ken and I were doing before with the backgrounds, where we were like just using them to sort of just start up an idea or something like that, a concept.
Well,
and I was doing some analysis on it because I'm trying to think it through. I'm really trying to think it through.
Okay. So I had a discussion about this earlier with someone else because I brought up the fact that I was using AI generated doing the text for like comic scripts and stuff.
Which we are just doing to be silly.
Which we were doing to be silly, but I mean, come on, like this is mine from earlier today.
Yeah, I love
I
this.
did his, and I finished mine off. You know, it came out. Both of ours came out really good.
Although I feel like I'm going to go back on mine now and kind of color it in. Mine only took like 30 minutes. And it doesn't look as good as yours, so I'm going to go back and recolor it a little.
Well, I also did mine by hand, guy.
You did, and that's fine. But, and what did that individual say?
So basically, what it is AI art itself shouldn't be called, in their opinion, and I kind of share this in a way, the way that they explained it, is AI should not be a final piece of artwork that you're going to sell or you're going to use to resell something else. Um, they where our opinions differ is when it's like AI art is being generated to kind of like give a certain thing where you're having like a task. Like I know people who model may you want to use AI art, but then you should take that AI art and change it so that it doesn't resemble anything and then put it in your models so that like even if someone's looking at it they can't really tell what is actually there, they just know that it's an image.
So very similar to what I was saying.
Yeah. But they shouldn't, would I call it creating art? No, it is definitely not creating art. So I recently on Facebook I did use Vana.com. And if you look at their mission statement, they try not to steal artists' looks and stuff like that. But you're uploading your own image in order for them to recreate it using AI technology. And the sole purpose of it is not to actually sell it, it's to put it on your like social media, profile pictures and stuff like that. It's just supposed to be some fun pictures that you can choose from. I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with advertisers and companies coming in saying, let's use an AI generated piece of artwork for something saying, say, like an ad campaign. I think that would be a slap in the face to pretty much every artist in the industry.
All right,
I
so
think I could draw the line there.
I feel like that's not exactly where I'm worried at this point in time. I think all of us are pretty good on that piece. I'm not that worried about that necessarily. Because I think we all kind of agree on that one. That's not to say you're not right.
No, but I did stop Bill from using a service that outright stole Kim Gung Yee's artwork.
Yeah. See, that's
And uploaded it after he passed away without the family's permission. So, and that's actually one of the bigger AI generating art things right now going around, which I'm kind of pissed about that. And the people
we all are.
Not only that, like bigger named artists are like, everyone's like, well, they shouldn't be like, their art's getting out there, they're getting exposure. And I'm like, there's a difference between exposure and not getting paid. And if you're an artist and you're trying to get paid for your artwork and then you have someone sitting there stealing your artwork, they just change it using an AI derivative.
Nice things.
And then they're selling it for a price and profit, then they're profiting off of your work, even though they think, oh, I made this image using AI, I'm scot-free. No, you don't have a copyright. The company making that, you doing that AI output does not have a legal copyright to reproduce that. And that's the biggest problem I'm seeing so far is there's no right of use.
Okay, so I agree with that. I'm trying to figure out something about this though from a point of view because I had started so and Melon's talking about experience therein where I mean we had this discussion before, and I will preface what I am saying by the way as because I had said this kind of to Kayan when I was texting him earlier when I was waiting for my car to be fixed. But which my car was not actually broken. It just thought it was broken. My car is a hypochondriac. So, but I want to preface this by saying I'm not defending anything, but I can't. Me personally, as a person, I can't handle we don't do this because it's bad. There has to be like, I have to break it down into pieces so that I can understand the why of what is bad. Not because I don't understand that it is bad, but because I want to know what the parameters are of the bad. so that you know, that way, I guess part of it is that, you know, for example, when I use maquettes to base underneath what I'm doing, I do it to make time, to cut time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I am tracing. I am legitimately tracing. And so for that, I purposely have to, like, every so often just draw something by hand without using maquettes, just to make sure I still can and make sure I have that skill. But it also still hurts, like, sort of feels like, I'm tracing. I shouldn't be tracing.
Do you
And
make
so,
the maquettes?
well, yeah, I made a lot of the maquettes, yes, but
Okay,
that's
so you made the maquettes that you are basing your artwork for your comic off.
I mean, I didn't make them totally. They're modifications of Daz's maquettes, so they're not
Okay, but
totally made by me.
still went in and you made those modifications themselves,
Oh yeah.
and Daz provides those for people to mold and shape for their projects. Yes.
Yeah. Pepper.
Okay, so
Pepper.
no, I'm breaking it down for you guys. Okay,
Okay.
if you are using a program that's authorizing you to change part of their program in order for you to use it, that is called fair use when you're using the program. You're not tracing over someone else's artwork, is what I'm trying to say. You're tracing over your own work. I don't see any problem in that.
Okay, thank you. And so, because you went down a different branch. Because what I was saying to Kayan was, I think this will make me feel better about this, because I actually don't have a problem intellectually, but all I need is one person to mention that I'm tracing, and I go into like an entire imposter syndrome spiral that takes weeks to get out of. So I was saying to Ken, I think this can be very therapeutic for me, because I need to know the why breakdown of all of this whole thing, because there are questions that I have. But I wanted to preface this by saying, like I said, I'm not defending AI. I'm just trying to whittle all of the possible conflicts against it out. For example, just as a test, I specifically went into Midjourney and said, create a picture, Star Wars, girl at table, in a Star Wars cantina, and do it in the style of Sam Yang, because Sam Yang was one of the ones who's been targeted by this, right?
Mhm.
Sam does art, and he's one of the guys I love. I love his work, and I've been following him for a long time. And so it rendered a picture that, I don't know, was kind of close, but I think would have been about as accurate to Sam Yang's work as if I had done it. You know what I mean? Like, it was close, but it wasn't quite. Then I took that picture and I did a reverse image search in Google, because I was curious if you could see the elements. And no matter which way I did it, I could see stylistically elements, but I could not see the pose. There was no matching pose. And the style didn't look exactly like Sam Yang's art. And the background was of the colors and the stylized part of Star Wars. So it looked like a Star Wars picture, but it wasn't directly copied from anything. And so now my question is, now wait a minute, when I do something, effectively, aren't I doing the same thing? I mean, because like the value of what I do as an artist is a conglomeration of Wallop, I don't even know how you pronounce that, which I've been studying for a long time, Sam Yang, which I've been studying for a long time, Haruhiko Mikimoto, of course, who is one of my personal favorites. And my style is a conglomeration of all of that. I mean, really, it is. Like, you can see bits and pieces, like the way that I do my eyes, or the way that I shape my nose, or the way I shape the mouth of the characters. All of that's a conglomeration too. So now I want to know, okay, knowing that AI equals bad, knowing that this is bad, it's not pulling the art directly, it's deriving, which is exactly what I do. How is it bad when AI does it and not bad when I do it? That's where I was starting to get into a problem.
So, by what you're stating, I guess in a long...
May I take this up?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Here's the difference. You are taking all of these different styles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We learn and we change throughout our lives.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. You can make something look more like it, but it will never be exact. Okay. We know this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Here is the difference. AI will only become better the more it feeds into that style. And it will become more and more and more like his until it is his. Until you can go into a search engine, type in his name, and there you go.
I get that.
But
Uh-huh.
But then you can tell the AI, I want this. And it will get better and better into that until it has that down pat.
Right.
So, unlike you, which will never get better and better and better into his style, and will always remain an amalgamation until your style starts coming out, the AI will continue to get better in that style. And that's where the difference starts coming in.
Okay, so though I absolutely agree with you on this one and do not disagree, there are two things that kind of stand out on that one. One, then what's wrong with this picture right here? And two, because it's not. This isn't up to that style. This is what that AI generated, right?
Mhm.
Right.
This AI generated, I told it to do it in Sam Yang style. It's not
Mhm.
close. It's remotely close, but it's not close. It's about
I
like
think-
it's about as close as if I had tried to mimic Sam Yang style.
I think what Kyan is trying to say is the more someone goes in and searches that specific artist, the more and more the images are going to start becoming in his style.
Yeah, I get that, but this isn't.
Okay? So you
No,
may not see
right
it in the
now.
same style right now, but eventually it will replace him.
No. Okay, again, back to what I was saying before. I'm trying to figure out which aspect of this is the wrong piece. Will is a different thing. I get that somewhere along the line it will do exactly his style perfectly, and you'll be able to get Princess Leia in Sam Yang style, and it'll be perfect. The question I've got is, what if the AI engines go a different direction? Suppose they take this conglomeration and go a different way. Like, for example, suppose that tomorrow Midjourney decides that they're going to impose you must have at least two styles in every one of these, or we will put a second style into the AI. So I can never say in the style of Sam Yang, because it will find Sam Yang and Wolop and merge them together no matter what. And that's their solution to avoid the copyright issue. I still feel like in my heart that that's not solving the problem. You see what I mean? However, they've end run around what I feel like we have complained about, which is the complaint was it will mimic my style. So all they have to do is make it mimic two styles at the same time and impose the second style to make it so that the AI is not using it. Then you're back to the same problem that I've got, which is it fed off of the art somewhere. And you still have that same problem of, we know that's not right. However, they've technically solved the problem. So now we're back to the same problem, which is now we still have the same issue of it's not technically a copyright violation. And now they've solved the fact that it will not mimic my artwork. But it's still wrong. You know what I mean? You see what I mean? Like, I still know it's wrong. And I hate the fact that I feel like you could technically get out of this. That's what I'm having a problem with. Because I agree with you guys. If it continues on, it will not be like this. If I kept saying that, it would get it over with. But I know that whoever it was, there was an artist. One of the things that Can had sent me was this very, very detailed artist has been hit so many times by the AIs in his style that the AIs have learned to mimic it exactly, which is exactly what Kane's saying. And so he's now wanting to have a cease on it. Okay, so if I were the programmers of that AI, I would simply add a rule that says you can't have just one style. It must always be two styles that you're mixing or more. And then we're still in the same problem, though, right?
So the problem is you're thinking that the programmers are actually going to fix this. In reality, this is a human problem.
Well, humans
This
are
is a human problem. This is a problem where people basically like an artist and they feel like they can try to use this type of programming to actually benefit without actually having to deal with the true artist.
Yeah.
Basically making things that look like his, but he never did, or taking mishmash of different photos or pictures of his work, cutting them up and reformulating them, making it look like it's cohesive, but it's still his work. So it's not a derivative at that point, Guy. What I'm trying to get at is these are people stealing artwork through an AI program, and you're thinking that the AI programmers are the ones that should be rectifying it. However, there's no laws that prevent it. Someone has to sue to make it happen, and he's taking that first step to do that.
Right. And what's going to happen, Pepper, and this is what I'm trying to say, is they're going to put him in a court of law. And they're going to sit there in front of a jury. And the jury is going to say, how do you fix this? And he's going to say, oh, that's easy. I'll just make it do two at the same time.
It's not going to be in front of a jury. This is a business thing. So business
it'll be in front of a judge. But the point,
it's going to be in front of a judge, yes. But he has to prove, the artist has to prove that he's being that his work's being stolen.
And
you're not thinking about it from the artist's perspective. You're thinking about it from a business perspective of the AI.
No. And that's why I said I had to be very careful about this. Because I'm not defending at all. That's what I said to Kian earlier. I said the problem is I have to think it through. And in order to think it through, I have to speak it out loud. And whenever I speak it out loud, people go, "You're just in defense of them." And I'm like,
no. What I was trying to basically
say is, I understand, but here's what I'm trying to say. Okay, the AI has taken my style and has taken, and let's just say something super egregious. They've taken and made something that, like tentacle porn out of my style, right? Something that really would hurt me and make me upset. And done that. Okay, I can go and say, lawsuit time. No problem. The programmers then decide to mix my style with your style and still do the same thing. Now, technically, we've gone over the 10% copyright law. So now we're in open zone, even though Yeah, I mean, I can always protect my characters, and that's a different
Mhm.
story. We can trademark our characters, we can protect our characters. That's a different story. I'm talking about style, and now we're talking about Sam Yang really works hard to be very PG on all of his styles, and he does these
Mhm.
lovely women, which I could see could be corrupted. So he's got a. Now we're talking about a whole new part of like thought process and law. And I'm talking about from our point of view. I'm not talking about AI. I'm talking about defending our style. That's never been out there. We can defend,
Mm,
we can
okay.
defend, we can, well, that's what I'm saying. Listen to me here because we can defend. I
I'm
can,
listening. I'm just telling you I have a point next.
that's fine. I can defend you misusing Chang, Captain Chang, right? I can defend that.
Mhm.
How can I defend you taking my style and making it Princess Leia? That's 10% out. How do
Okay.
you defend that?
Uh,
Well,
so
mhm.
so that has actually come up in another way altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Like that has actually been fought in court.
Yep, I was about to say the same thing,
What was
especially
the
in the
result?
gaming industry.
In which industry, Pepper?
Gaming.
Uh,
The in reality, the art in the gaming industry.
and one other place, the music industry.
Yep.
And they
That's
have
a good place.
ruled in the artist's favor.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. They
Yeah.
always rule in the artist's favor in that one.
So if you're wondering why I'm going down this path, by the way, guys, is my experience with especially copyright law is you have to be explicit about what you're talking about, and then the violator has to have explicitly violated that one thing. You can't go into copyright law with, well, it's just bad and we all know it. So that's why I'm trying to break it down. What piece is the bad part? Since I'm looking at this, and by copyright law, what I created is nothing like, well, what I created is nothing like the artist that I told the AI to do by. It didn't do that at all.
Mm.
Moreover, it's not connected to any other piece. It conglomerated it. Okay, so that's not in 10% copyright. But you and I both know it's not right. And now I'm trying to figure out why. Because it doesn't violate copyright law and it didn't actually use his style. And so until it does, which then I can see RIAA style problems and music style, that solves that problem. But then again, what do you do whenever, like I said, the AI decides to merge two styles at all times to prevent it from ever being that close? So it still can do up to 90% of Sam Yang style, because the 10% would be the violation of the law. Then there's the other question of, if 10% out is the law, can Sam Yang sue me when I get close to his style? That becomes another question then. Then can the Sam would never do this because he's a nice guy. But let's pretend we have some irreputable bad dude or whatever out there who is a super artist and hates everybody and is mad and decides to just start suing people because they're close to their style,
Which has happened.
which
Yeah,
has happened.
which is actually happening right now.
So the question is, how do we delineate the rules of AI without impacting us as artists negatively by all of a sudden making it so that some jerk can lock us down? I'm thinking of things like Melon, who's doing effectively 8-bit style art. A little bit complicated, but you get the idea. And somebody just says, well, you know what, I made 8-bit style art, and you can't do that anymore. because of the AI laws, and it's like, well, wait a minute, how did that backfire on us?
Okay.
Things like that.
I just want to throw this out there real quick, okay? Because this is actually something that has been discussed with me personally about on how my style and the way I've drawn over the years has evolved.
Mhm.
Because you have to understand, I draw very similar to that of a person that comes from Caltech, but I did not go to Caltech. And a lot of people that come out of Caltech seem to draw very similarly. And a lot of people say I draw similar to them at certain points in my life. Now, with that being said, since my artwork looks like it derived from other artists already, but I'm saying I'm not copying them, and I happen to draw one image, and another artist happens to draw the same image, but since we have similar styles, some people will come after me saying that I copied their work, and in reality, if I talk to them, I'm like, well, here's my art and here's the process. I didn't copy anything. This is my process on how I got here. And that artist goes, well, yeah, this is what happened when I did it this way. And we got to a similar place, and I guess we have a character that looks very similar. And then we have a general discussion about it because that's what I do and how I handle it. Now, with an AI-generated art, that's actually a little bit different because you can't really interact with an AI and ask who did this, who put in the type to make that image. You have to find out through the AI if the person doesn't reveal that they did it through an AI first.
And also the other side of the coin is, okay, it's going to start requiring you to mix different artists' art.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the solution is you cannot tell it who to mix.
Yeah, I mean, well, but then
because if you're going in and saying I want it in Sam Takai and this other guy's style,
right,
then you are naming two artists who are alive. And what I'm saying is, so the better way to do it is either have it where the AI is not allowed whatsoever to copy anyone's art.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to generate based on the prompts without any artist input. The other thing.
Now my next
hang,
question.
Hang on. I'm not done.
Like, I'm not done. Okay.
The other side, and this is where I start getting into the ethical side of it, is it cannot be used for final pieces.
Yes.
Well, and I'm not arguing that. So
no, but you have to have that other part in. Otherwise, you're going to have a prompt artist come in and dominate everything, like even corporations, and start putting artists out of business.
Mm-hmm.
Because what an AI can do and what an AI can pull and learn from is in not even fractions of a second of what it takes a human artist to do.
Yes, and so
what I'm saying is that the copyright needs to change, that AI is not allowed to use those sources, that it has to be treated in a very different manner.
I think one of the solutions, and this may actually be because I'm around Bill a lot, is all AI programs have to have a set amount of images in a database that they can specifically only pull from. And if they are a living, breathing artist who has not passed, and family has not consented to give that artwork to be part of that collective in that area of that server, then they cannot put those artists in there. Like Leonardo da Vinci, you can put that in there. He's been dead for many years and his work is very famous. If someone tries to use an AI piece of artwork for something with that, again, that's something that's like not in the realm of copyright because it's too old, right? But Kim Gong Yi, who recently passed, his artwork shouldn't be in that. His family never consented, and that's like the biggest thing. His family has to fight now to get that out of that type of situation.
This is gonna turn into a new level of catfishing. Hey, can you draw this picture with me? But don't add too many eyeballs to it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah, right. You know?
There's like 30 eyeballs in there. That's AI generated.
yeah. But here's okay. So I agree with what you're saying. I think one of the other things, the problems that we've got is that I don't think you're ever. So I think people want. I mean, imagine what would happen if you said that it could only use dead people's art. We'd be horribly limited doing, say, Simpsons style art or Family Guy style art or anything like that, because none of those artists are dead. You'd be really limited on anime style art because we still have a lot of I mean, you could only do anime style art up to like 1982 or so, and you'd be limited before after that quite a bit. So people would have a problem with that, and I could see that. I was actually thinking when you said database about Bill, my first thought was that each AI image is registered. And then
that would
then if you were to turn in an AI piece, they could look it up in the database and it would say, oh no, that AI piece is registered. You can't use it.
Thanks.
No, and I agree with you. The database can work two ways, where it stores what it creates in a separate database, but it pulled from another database in order to make the art. I'm not saying, and I understand what you're saying by limiting art, but the thing is what's going on and what's happening right now is people are using it as prompts, but there are some people who are wanting to use it for profit and do not care whether it's legal or not, and they're putting it in like advertisements and stuff like that, and they're trying to get away with it.
Sure.
One of the things that one of the videos I've seen to make it like to show, like someone was trying to show on how ridiculous this was it was a recording of someone stating that they were trying to make an AI image. They found an image that they liked, but then they went back in it and said, can you do this from this to this and this? And then what they got was literally what they asked for, but scribbles of yellow over what they actually wanted. So it wasn't what they wanted, and they eventually actually had to pay a person to make an image. And in that case, they were taking photographs, like legitimate photographs, and merging them and mixing them to try to make the image with an AI. And they didn't have permission from that from those photographers.
So I feel like I feel like you keep trying to convince me that it's morally and ethically wrong, and I'm not having a problem.
I'm using the key term when you use it for profit when I say this.
I know.
And I think you're negating when I say that.
I don't know. I mean,
if you're using it,
I think either way, whether you have profit or not, If I run an AI image, I still think at the core of it, me just saying that's my artwork is still ethically wrong, even if I don't profit.
Okay.
Yeah?
First of all, Guy, I don't see you would actually. I don't see you as a person that would sell an AI art
Of
piece
course
as
not.
your own.
This is
Okay.
hypothetical.
Um, as far as I am aware, there are groups of people who are calling themselves AI artist groups, and they are in fact going to conventions like us and selling artwork. And they have been caught. They have signs posting all around them saying that it's AI generated art. They do this for not profit, blah blah blah, but they are charging people $50 an image.
Yeah.
That's kind of hard to say that they're saying they're not doing for this for profit. Meanwhile, they're charging people money for an image that's based off of an AI programming.
I'm using the wrong I'm using the wrong keywords with you guys, I feel like.
I think so.
Because what I'm saying to you and what you're saying back are completely different. I'm talking about pizza and you keep talking to me about driving rules. And I'm like, whoa,
Okay,
whoa, whoa. You know, that's
let
what I
me
mean.
let
I feel
me
like,
let me let me try to re-explain what I mean. Okay, you make an AI image to inspire you to do something else. Okay, so
mm-hmm.
you take that image that you had up earlier, that was
Yeah.
something that you programmed to have, that style. But you look at that image and you go, I want to put Chang in this, and I
Mm-hmm.
want to have her in a formal attire, blah, 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 blah. So you recreate this AI generated image, but in your style, but you use the
I feel you.
items as as a way to lay out the image so that you like it with Chang, your character.
Sure.
Okay, at that point, that image now has become yours. You have put details that are specific to Chang. You have put Chang in the image. You have put Chang in a different attire. You have put Chang in a situation that's similar, but it's not the same image. So that is still your new image, whereas you got inspiration from an AI. Do you see? Do you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah. And that
Okay.
is where the complication
Now,
is.
now, what if you took that image and tried to, without doing that, took it to a show and said that's Chang?
Right.
Now, that is where your ethics and moral fiber get tested, because do you sell that image because you feel that you can, or do you not because you really didn't make it, something else did?
Okay. So I
That's
follow
the question
all
I think you're dilemming.
you're into the right spot. I don't think, but I personally don't think money is a factor
Actually,
in this one necessarily. It can,
unfortunately, money is.
well, yes, but it's not alone. Okay, so
No, it's
here's
not. But
exactly what you're talking about. I had an AI generate this picture. It's got some
Mhm,
problems. So I
mhm,
did exactly what you're talking about. I turned it into Chang, right?
mhm.
And so I went ahead and cleaned up the problems with it, cleaned up the eyes, cleaned up the nose, put little freckles on it. Her ears stick out now because that's the way it works with Chang. I made her hair longer. Da 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 da. Da. I put little symbols around here, but you can already see it's not that much different, right? The difference is very minor, but it is 10%. We are now 10% out. Technically, I
I
could
would.
sell this piece.
Guy, whoever told you that you should change an image 10% to avoid copyright?
Copyright law.
Okay, so when I was in art school, they said if you want to change an image, you must go 30%.
That's though it could be 30%, that wouldn't work with the Mona Lisa with T-shirts pictures that are out there.
No, it's not. But 30%, when you're talking about this, what you're doing, and you saying that you changed it 10%. Okay. So if you went an extra 20%,
I feel like we're getting to the point where we're splitting hairs on that one. 30%, 10%. The point to me is this isn't my picture. I didn't make this
uh-huh.
picture. You know what I mean? That's the point that bothers me on this one is I didn't make this picture. This isn't my style. I mean, it's not even close. I mean, I can do something like this. I've got the capability.
Hmm.
So my problem is, let's say I'm a nefariously bad artist. I'm a bad guy. There's literally no way you'd know, by the way, that this was the original picture because it's gone now. It was in Midjourney and it's disappeared. So you can't find this picture anymore. So you couldn't reverse look it up
Hmm.
via image.
Hmm.
But on the same token, if I was saying that this was my work, how in the world would you know?
Well, that is something that you would have to live with at the end of every day and sleep very well on.
Well, that's the problem. And now we're back to what I was talking to Can about, which is, can you say, because I'm not doing what Can is doing right now, but instead I use a maquette, can you say that I'm not doing the same thing?
And I'm going to go back to what I said before. You alter those maquettes. You specifically are using a tool provided by Daz Studio to make something that you are wanting to create, and you are doing the extra work to make sure that they are yours.
Mm-hmm.
What
And
you're splitting hairs on is someone who doesn't care enough to do that.
well, okay, so again,
What I'm saying is, if you revert that image back to the original image, the person that you were talking about will post the original image and say it's theirs.
right. But it's got
Okay?
errors that make it obviously AI generated. The nose is screwed up, the eyes are weird, stuff like
Great.
that.
And
It's like,
public
how
mob
do you
mentality will go after that person.
right. But what I'm trying to say is we can see those cues will tell us, it's got 17 fingers. We can tell that it was done by an AI, right? But what if I correct it?
Yeah, but on the other side, I think there's a part that you're not taking into account with this. That is right now. Right now, it's developing 17 eyes and 3 billion fingers.
Yeah, I know.
It will only get better.
Okay, so Can, that you're
No,
coming back to that one a number of times,
but
and
hang on. There will hit a point in which you could go and say generate Chang, and it will render Chang perfectly,
mhm,
and you will not be able to tell.
so this is back to the I must be using the wrong words. I'm sitting there
I,
saying,
I think I figure out what I think I know what's going on here. Okay, he's talking about future, where we're heading. You're talking about now. Okay,
well,
so
actually,
hold on. So if Kyan is saying this is where it's going to go, and every single artist is now going to be in use of reference for AI programming, Guy, you effectively eventually will be taken out of the loop, and people will just start using your artwork whether you like it or not. And
like
that's
I
an
said,
eventuality. It's an eventuality. It's not a correct stance of present time right now.
this is why I feel like
However,
I'm not talking to you guys, I'm not using the right words.
you're not listening what I'm trying to say, which
No,
makes it a little bit more
no,
difficult, guy.
Pepper, hang on. I'm saying, hey, these are going to get so perfect that we will not be able to tell the difference, and people will be using them to sell instead of being an actual artist and having skill. However, you can't just say that's bad. You have to break it down, because if you don't break it down, it won't stand up in a court of law, and we are lost. And you guys keep going, but it'll get better and people will use it. And I'm like, yes, I know, I just said that. What I'm trying to say is, breaking this down, how is this different, so that we can use that in a court of law? How is this different than me compiling a bunch of styles together and doing that, when the AI is effectively compiling a bunch of styles? You have to find a way to delineate those two. And you guys keep coming back to,
May I?
People will use this. And I'm like,
Please do, David.
So, in the end, it's all about morality. If you're going to be if you're going to be somebody who wants to sell all those and put it out in the world and have people buy it, and it's going to be just like bootlegging. People do it. People will take a video camera into a movie theater, and they will get the movie they want, and they will sell that. It's all about morality in the end. It's you currently, the person sitting right there, that's stopping that from happening by how you view morality.
sure,
That's it.
But we know that bootlegging is bad, and there are laws against it, and you can go to jail for it. You can't go to jail right now for AI art.
Yeah, but there had to be a break-in period for the bootlegging. The same thing with music.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? When you burn CDs and stuff like that.
And the point that I'm trying to make here, and the point that I've been trying to make all night, is bootlegging has a set of very specific rules to indicate what is a bootleg. So that when someone is caught with a bootleg whatever, then there is a very clear-cut rule that puts them into the court system, that puts them in jail, so that there is a reason to stop doing it. What I've got a problem with is, we currently are violating no laws. Yes, it's immoral. Absolutely, it's immoral. That's what we're talking about. It's immoral to do all kinds of things in our culture. The problem is, when we don't have laws, the people who are immoral will do it anyway. And specifically what Brian's saying, is exactly what's going to occur. This will start to become hey, you know what? This is immoral, but I need to feed my family. So AI art it is, and we will get run out of town, because it takes us a lot longer to generate a piece of art than the AI. So that one piece right there is the part that's the hardest part for us. We're going to get run out of town. So somebody's going to have to decide to make a law that says AI art's not allowed, but you can't just say AI art's not allowed. What if I modified it, like this picture here, which is modified? Then you see what I mean? By like, there are gradations on it.
Oh man, I guess you're gonna have to start doing AI art.
Yeah. I'm just going to throw this out there, okay? There are several artists that are already making legal actions for this. And those artists are going to be the foundations with their cases that are actually going to make those rules.
Right.
We don't know what those rules are going to be yet.
And the other side is, you're putting the onus on the artists to come up with what those rules are. We are not lawyers. We are artists. That is why it needs to go through the court system, and these lawsuits need to start coming through, so a lawyer can come in and say, this is how we need to start defining it.
Yeah, I guess part of the reason that I'm concerned and worried is, generally speaking, if people don't go into court with a defined thing, it goes the way of whichever makes them more money. and more money will always be the AI artists because I can generate 1,000 pictures today. And you
Yeah, until you piss off Disney.
right. But
And then
if
Disney
bothers
goes
me-
in, and let's say I start generating Winnie the Pooh stuff, and I start selling Winnie the Pooh stuff. They can send a cease and desist after me, but who they're actually going to go after is the creators of the AI artist or
Yeah.
of the AI.
yeah, but
They're going to
legally,
go
they
after that company.
yeah, but legally, that company has already absolved itself because you agreed in the toss.
Yes, the company has basically agreed in the toss that you are actually responsible, but that is not what is going to happen, Guy.
Really?
Kyle is right. The company will be hit with a lawsuit and they will be forced to change.
Because they are not enforcing their toss.
What I was trying to say right at the very beginning, you're blaming the artist.
I'm not blaming anybody.
You need to blame. You need to place blame on the actual programmers that created this AI technology
Right.
as well.
I-
You can't negate them.
I-
They're not negated.
So, Pepper, I feel like you're taking my words wrong.
No, I'm not. I believe that I am saying the right thing.
Well, no, I mean, like, first of all, I'm not pro AI here
No, we're not saying you
We're
are.
not saying that.
because I feel like
I'm
you keep
saying
telling
that,
me that I'm blaming artists and putting the onus on artists.
guy. Throughout this entire talking, you keep saying that the artists need to find the solution. The artists need to be the ones that actually sit there. And I stated that when I have a problem and I have an image that I make and someone says I copied it from someone else, and then I reach out to that artist and go, hey, I didn't really copy yours. Here's what I did. And then they talk to me and I talk to them. That's an interpersonal artist to artist thing. We do. We decide what we're going to do from there. Okay? But with AI art, I don't have another artist to talk to in that manner. I have a computer program that
Now
is
I know
created
what
by
the
another
problem.
person. And
David
that
just said it.
that is a problem.
David just said it.
Yeah.
Part of the problem is, and David had said it, and now I know what the problem is. I agree that somewhere along the line we will have laws. I don't really trust that the laws will go in our favor, but hey, who knows? Anything can happen. That's not the problem. David just said it. It's a moral problem. This is a moral problem, which means that I'm not talking really about laws. I'm talking about how do you and I handle it? How does David handle this? Because what's going to happen is the companies are going to pick up these AI artists and they're not going to care because it doesn't matter. The AI artists can produce artwork much faster than we can. And when it comes to the moment of needing this for a movie or a TV show or whatever, they want it now. And the fact that we take more time, that's never going to change. And I think the core problem here is the money is with the AI artists because they're faster. And that's what I think is where I'm concerned. So you're going to have to rely on law, and it's going to have to rely on artists defending why we should be going with horses and buggies when someone has invented a car or an airplane.
Because we're Luddites.
But I mean, that's what I'm saying is like when it comes to the point of, say, for example, let's just say Paramount Pictures, they want a backdrop painting of a space scene of something or another. I could give it to them and it would be gorgeous in 45 seconds to a minute. How long would it take you and me to paint it? The problem is when it comes to money, people start losing their morals quick, and especially when they're on a budget. So you're right. It's not going to be a problem. It's never going to be Winnie the Pooh. It's not going to be the problem. Disney's not going to care. Disney's going to hire them. That's the problem I'm worried about. Disney's going to pick these guys up to make backgrounds for artwork and things like that, because this AI generator is going to generate it just fine. Disney's going to hire them then to do fill animation between 2 or 3 frames using AI art, because that only takes a second. So they're never going to need to use fill artists anymore. Disney, you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying, is like, where and what's going to end up happening is somewhere it's going to boil down to you, me, Ken, and David all agreeing to band together and effectively go on strike or something to make an impact. That's what I'm looking for. What are we dealing with here? Because that's the problem I'm running into. Yeah, I totally agree.
Well,
with you. It is a moral problem. I get that. But
okay, and then also at the same time, like, I'm gonna travel back and say Disney. Okay, Disney seeing an AI problem for their company. You're right. They probably would actually buy the company and sink it and use the technology for their benefit. Not saying that it won't happen. I can totally see them doing that.
yeah,
The
that's
thing
not
is
actually what I'm worried
now
about.
they've taken that program out of normal use.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying,
Yeah, but follow me here for a second.
okay.
Okay. So there's multiple AI generators right now, not just one. There's more than one. And so Disney takes out one, but that leaves the rest of them. And again, it goes into that moral gray area. But you're right. Eventually, it's going to be a bunch of people making lawsuits. And it sucks. And that's what we have to basically effectively do.
So understanding that that's the problem. First of all, I don't think that Disney would ever. There's no reason for Disney to take it out of system. They just need a programmer in there that does prompts.
Disney would probably take it out of the system.
Not unless it's violating their copyright. And if you
Yeah, like that's exactly what they would do, though.
Because
But-
you're teaching the AI Disney
How to
style.
circumvent? Yeah,
they
They
would
would
probably,
take it.
you're probably right. But what Disney would do is just build their own AI and feed it Disney information and then try to sue everybody else. That's what I would see Disney doing.
No, well,
But it didn't
hold on.
solve the problem.
You're thinking that they're actually willing to make it themselves before going after someone. What I'm saying is they would go after someone, take the technology, and then go after others. That's what I'm saying.
My ethical problem doesn't involve that, because both of those things are entirely
Yes,
plausible.
but I'm
and
going based off of Disney's track record.
Yeah, I mean, I think either one of those is perfectly viable.
Yeah.
But that's not the problem. The problem I've got is what I see coming up here on this corner here is the money is going to be with AI because it's faster. And there's no way that you and I can ever beat the speed of AI. We are simply just never going to be able to do it.
It depends on how many people are going up against that one company. If it's a class action lawsuit, you're talking a very vastly different thing right there.
Also-
and that in business law will require 6 jurors minimum for a lesser class
Well,
action.
Also, there's one other industry that we need to look at before we can actually really go forward. And this is going to come out of completely left field. We have to look at the automakers
Mm-hmm.
Yep, because auto design.
and automation.
Mm-hmm.
I would look at the factories there where, hey, they have replaced workers with machines.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of lawsuits came out from that? Where does that stand, and how does that affect things? And again, it's coming into we need more artists stepping up and saying, I'm suing Midjourney. I'm suing this company. I'm suing this company.
Mhm.
And blanket suing all of them and going, okay, we need to start defining these.
And I hear what you're saying, and actually you brought up an excellent example. Did the auto workers union actually stop robots? Because they didn't.
They didn't, but they changed it. There is something that they did. And now I have to look it up.
That's what I'm worried about right there.
They changed it so that there's a certain number of machines that replaced human beings, but then they had to reteach or give a new task to the people that were working there before if they were kept on. So, like, they were doing a task, then they were trained on another task in order to keep it continually working for their union sake. But all automakers have to have a certain number of human beings in the assembly now. They can't replace 100%.
But the reason that so what I'm trying to kind of get at with all of this is that's great. So now you can't ever sell art ever again, but we'll retask you and pay you to, clean toilets. That's not going to help.
But we're also talking about two different industries.
We are.
Now, Kyan made a point to bring it up because that is what's going to be used against artists. And I thoroughly believe that is an example that they are probably going to try to pull.
Right.
Okay. But here's the deal. Every artist has their own copyright the moment they put something into the public eye with their name on it.
So let me bring up one of the reasons why I'm going through all of this. I just talked to Amanda, the head of NDK, and we discussed this. And she's putting it into policy that art in the art show and art in the artist alley AI will not be allowed.
A lot of people are adopting it.
Right. However, the reason why I'm bringing this up is how far is AI? 30%, 20%, 10%, 5%, 100%? Can I reject if there is even a small amount? A couple of days ago, Kane used AI for background just to prompt it, and he wasn't going through, and he didn't. But do we call that a? And this is what I was talking about before, that people kept going. You were going a different direction with it, and I kept saying I think we're going two different directions. Now, NDK has been putting down the law. Okay, that's fine. But I'm going to be required to go through art now and figure out if you've used AI with this. And
for all those eyeballs.
Yeah.
But what Ken's saying is absolutely right. In 5 years, I won't be able to see 72 eyeballs. I'm not going to see 53 fingers. It's going to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to need to reject this piece because it's AI. This is now a practical problem for literally me. Now it's literally a problem.
Okay, so when you're in the realm of NDK, had you started off with that, it would have made the conversation go a lot smoother for me.
Well,
okay,
that's what I'm saying.
I just want to point out. I want to point that out. You buried the lead here, guy, for me. Okay. A lot of people are adopting it for their shows, and I understand why. There have been groups of AI, like these are AI generation groups, which they post, we don't do this for profit, blah blah blah. Like they try to basically say what they're doing is not illegal and it's not infringing on anyone's copyright. The problem is some of these groups are going into these artist spaces, selling the art for money. They're saying they're not doing it for profit, but they're not providing why it's not for profit. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No, I'm actually
So
missing
basically, what
entirely
they're
where we
doing
are.
is they're lying.
Yeah.
Okay. They're not doing it for non-profit. They're doing it for profit, and they're trying to basically say they're not. And what has happened is some of these groups have gotten into these shows, and straight up, the actual artists of the pieces are at that same show,
Yeah.
and they won't cease and assist because of their logic.
I get that. But that's what
So
David was
rather
saying.
than having
That's a moral issue.
yes, but rather than having angry artists at these shows, preventing them from coming back, which sometimes these artists are draws to a show,
Mm-hmm.
shows are now reacting by saying no more AI generated art
Mm-hmm.
to help those more high profile artists that do come to their shows and attend as artists selling their work.
Mm-hmm.
So what they're doing is effectively you're trying to now protect artists, guy, through NDK by not allowing those artists that are using AI generated art.
Are you trying to compliment me because the tone of your voice is trying to convince me?
I'm saying that the effective issue that you're talking about, this is one of the ways that we can kind of try to stop this from being done towards artists. I'm trying to state that NDK, your organization, has made one of those steps to make it harder on AI artists who are breaking moral code and ethical codes as artists.
Okay, because so the reason why you're getting the furrowed brow is because you just watered as wet did me.
No, the furrowed brow is because I don't know how to make facial expressions when I'm actually trying to think
my
while
furrowed
talking.
brow. My furrowed brow. To me,
Yeah, I'm not saying NDK is doing anything wrong. I think they are now defending artists from being prevented from having to deal with someone that has stolen their artwork and is trying to sell it at the same show, but they won't take it down because they say that it's AI generated and they are fully capable of selling it. What I'm saying is that it is defending people from actually being in a place where they get upset and don't return to the show, paying money to NDK to be there.
You know what? We're going to just have to start doing live competitions. You get a paper and a pen. Everybody, start drawing.
I had planned on writing tonight.
well, but
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That the competitions are going to be like that way now. It's like you don't have 2 weeks to get this art together and turn it in. You have to do it
I think I
on the
said that to you,
spot.
man. So part of the reason I'm having a problem is I am talking about something outside of this. And I'm using these things as examples. And every time I use these things as an example, like I will say, for example, I think I talked to Amanda and we both came up with this plan of which to do this. And you're like, see, you need to do this, guy. Why are you not doing this? And I'm like, whoa.
I'm not saying you're not doing it. I keep telling you you're doing it.
That's what I mean.
Why do you keep thinking I'm saying something I'm not?
Because you just convinced me that I'm defending the artists. And that's why I'm
No,
saying
I'm not.
I'm not sure why I'm getting information that's coming back. Either I'm not understanding what you're trying to say, or you're not understanding what I'm trying to say. But but what I just said was this. I'm going to have to
getting out of hand.
Well, it's frustrating to me because I'm trying to understand. the tone of voice coming from Can and Pepper both sound like they're trying to convince me to stop using AI or something. And like, I'm not saying these things. And the thing that bothers me is I will say things like, NDK is now going to make this defense of artists. And Pepper will be like, yes, you need to make this defense of artists, and goes on for a long time about how I need to do this. And the tone sounds like you're trying to convince me to do it. And I'm like, we're doing it. And yes, it's
No, I
true.
was trying to say by you doing it through NDK this way, this is one of the things that you can do to prevent it from continuing.
Yes. And so,
But you weren't seeing it that way because you were looking at the tone of my voice, because you were talking to a person on autism spectrum who is frustrated and is probably using the wrong tone.
that's fine.
And you associate it with a different emotion,
So,
so it's making it miscommunicate for you.
which is fine. So you're saying, good job. And I'm going, okay. Now,
Yeah.
that's what the law is going to have to do at some
Mhm.
point in time. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, and the reason why I'm saying it's a problem, is the law will have to do the same thing we just did, which is AI is not allowed ever for anything, ever, for any reason. And that won't fly because the big corporations will say, oh, no, 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 we need AI. So this is going to become a clash, because you can't just say AI is not allowed ever for any reason, because the companies will push back and say, no, wait, we like having them being able to generate something. So the artists are going to have to come in and defend it by saying, well, wait a minute, you're using my work. And the companies are going to come back and say, well, yeah, but, you know, effectively all artists conglomerate their work. And then we're going to have to figure out what that next step is. And right now, what the next step is, well, artists will have little artist alleys where they make $5 and that's the end of it. And any professional artists from now on are gone. And we'll just have to accept that. And that's what I'm seeing in the future, because Ken's right. At some point, you're not going to be able to tell that I used an AI.
Uh-huh.
There's no way you'll be able to know anymore that I used an AI. And my problem and what I foresee in the future is it's easy for me to do this at the NDK level. I can block out that. Amanda's wording was gorgeous. It was, we appreciate our artists and defend our artists for their originality, and therefore we do not permit artificial intelligence artwork. I loved that. That's, you know, something, you know, is very well done. It was very, very eloquent, and, you know, very much like she does. And it's exactly the sentiment. But what I'm seeing and what I'm worried about is, what's the delineating line? When you start talking about these lines, where can we put a battlefield out? Because it is going to fall on us. It's not going to fall on us at NDK. It's going to fall on us at ILM. It's going to fall on us at Disney. The places where we do get a lot of money, the places where we can make it big. We'll be done making it big. We will never make it big ever again. We will only hope for small fry money for the rest of our lives at this rate. That's what I'm worried about. And if that's the problem, how do we put up a defense in this? Or do we just give up and just say it's gone and say, sorry? That's
You know what this feels like? This feels like the whole actual Luddite situation. Everybody's like, how can we sabotage the future so that people keep buying handmade material that we've made?
right.
No. This is
This is not the same.
hang on. This is an argument we've had before. Not us,
No,
but as artists, we've had this argument before.
I feel like we have too. Yeah.
Traditional versus digital.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's going to happen is This is going to change and revolutionize art. Okay, that is the bare minimum. The thing is that, and this is where I've been trying to get in with the ethical side of this.
Mm-hmm.
So in the automotive industry, they're using robots to replace repetitive tasks. And no one is preparing anybody. Lawmakers aren't preparing general workers, anything for the AI rise, for the AI era, which is coming. The thing is, we are now on the cusp of Pandora's box.
If not already on the other side, yeah.
Yeah. So what it is what does this mean to us? This isn't about taking this. That's not the right word.
Go on ahead and think it through. Think it through. Give you space on this one.
This isn't about legality. Although legality is a large part of it.
Okay.
This is about how do we prevent this from completely destroying everyone's job? Not just artists, authors, workers, everything.
Right. The creatives.
No, not just creatives. I'm talking about even line workers. Because there are robots coming restaurant industry.
I've actually already seen one.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes. Chili's just removed their host robots.
But there are kitchen robots.
I would have replaced if I were in Chili's, but okay.
But
okay, yeah,
there are already kitchen robots that can do the task of chefs.
Yeah.
Perfectly and accurately every time. So every plate of food is exactly the same.
And this is something that McDonald's is really after, because one of McDonald's big things is that if you go to a McDonald's in Japan and get a Big Mac, it tastes exactly the same as one in, say, Sacramento. And that's a big deal with them, because they want you to have a taste of home no matter where you are by going to McDonald's. That's a big deal. So there's a drive with McDonald's to do this very same thing.
You know, if capitalism wasn't a thing, automation would just make people's lives easier.
Yep. And I actually was going to go right there. What's probably going to happen is that we're going to have a whole bunch of us put out of work, and then finally realize that there's nothing we can do about this. Capitalism is just going to have to figure out a way, because you can't just keep putting people out of work and then expecting them. The fries don't taste the same. But, and hello, Andy. We have been having a wonderfully complicated discussion. I don't know how long you've been here. So anyway.
I also want to put out that, like, one of,
It's
like,
strong.
if you're bringing up McDonald's, there is a McDonald's that's in Florida that one of my siblings used to work at, that they replaced the cash registers and the cashiers with automated cash registers.
No, sure. The Wendy's had automated cash.
They have kiosks now.
But
Yep.
but all of them, this one has no human greets you at all.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is their sales at that particular location went severely down, and everyone started going through the drive-through. No one was coming inside, and they had to remove them to bring people back inside.
Yeah. Arby's had tried that in the 90s a couple of times and had intermittent success with it. COVID helped a lot on that.
Mm-hmm.
So COVID furthered the AI cause in this particular instance, because that's just what happened. Everybody didn't want to get COVID, so they were actually happy to not have people at the front counter, and they had to put up screens and things like that anyway. So it was furthered. The truth of the matter is, my buddy in Japan and I had this discussion because he's Japanese, and he said the difference is that Japan will take on this kind of thought process quicker because they have traditionally in their media, their robots have always been kind and gentle. And traditionally in American media, our robots have always taken over the world. And so by default, we sort of assume that all robots will take over the world. And they assume,
I, for one, welcome our own robot overlords.
Right? So he was talking about cultural design differences between the two cultures. I thought that was a fascinating argument or discussion. But the thing that I'm seeing with what Kayan's saying is absolutely spot on. At some point, it's coming after everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's just easier to. I mean, you don't get employees that argue. You don't get people who need sick time. You don't need, you know what I mean? Like all of the things. You're just going to have a society full of managers. The managers spend all day doing, managing their robots. But that's the same. That's exactly what I was talking about earlier, which is, I don't think there's anything we can do as far as just, putting up a good fight that will stop corporations from deciding that AI art is far easier and simpler and cheaper. And therefore, we've got to come up with something else. There has to be something else we can do, or else just accept that we're done. And I'm not sure where that
I also feel like there's going to be an uncomfortable topic that pops back up when you're discussing this, which brings up, is digital art real art again?
Mm-hmm.
Because if AI is a digital medium coming up with art, and you say that it's no longer a true art form and it's basically stealing people's art, then you're going to have to define the actual definition of art. And if it becomes legally sound to say physical art done by hand is art, well, digital is done by hand, yes, but is it physical? And that's what you're going to have to define.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm saying. And then you end up in that 10%, 20%, 30% zone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was, and that's where we were earlier when we were having this discussion. You and I were kind of clashing in that one. And I think what needed to happen is I needed to come from a different angle on this one, because I think, and that was what I was worried about earlier, what I had said with you, Ken, on text. I said, I really need to think this through the way I think through things, but I don't think anybody's going to see what I'm talking about. They're going to assume I'm defending AI in some way. And
you better bust out those papers and pencils.
Yeah, except that I don't think that way. Really, the truth is that I needed to just.
I'm joking.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm saying, I don't. That's the problem. Is there's so much noise in my head, I can't think it out internally. I have to think it out externally, and I have to. See it. And
we're just going to have to embrace the suck.
Well, and that's the thing is, we've watched other areas embrace the suck, and we are already a culture that has to embrace the suck.
I mean, we're so inundated with media at every corner of every second of every day. I mean, what's to say that there's not going to be any more uniqueness anymore? So
Well, there's already, if you're going that route, there's already no uniqueness.
I know.
'Cause you
So AI is just going to compound the problem that we're assailed every day, all our senses, all the time.
Yeah,
Damn, am I getting metaphorical up in here? It's like,
but I mean there's another problem, and that is if you have no new input, because all of us artists no longer produce, and we're all wiped out, then at some point there will be a feedback problem where all art is only art that was generated before, say, 2030 or 2040, because after 2040 no artists were working anymore, and all the AI is doing is mulling over that art over and over and over and over and over and not generating anything new. And that is something that makes me worried about too.
I kind of want to step back a little and bring Japan back into a little bit of an area that kind of
he's back. I gotta go take a
fix this issue. I want to say, in a way, they did. So everyone knows like Rumiko Takahashi and Clamp and all of the old school mangaka and manga artists, whatever. So some of them still work traditionally on a few parts of their project. Publishers in Japan appreciate them taking that time to do it. They schedule it out so that it's possible, but they still do. And the reason why they appreciate it is it's because it's done by hand. It's not digital. It can't be like reworked digitally. It has to all be done by hand.
Yes.
And when you're talking about AI, well, what's AI pulling from? Are they pulling from pictures of artwork done by hand, or are they pulling from digital art pieces that have been scanned in at high resolution or have been done digitally by another artist?
And I think you're starting to hit what I'm looking for.
Okay.
I think you're honing in on what I'm saying or looking for.
Yeah. So
which is, how do we establish a... You're not working anymore? What's the story here?
So when you're trying to find a job, if I'm trying to find a job, okay, and I approach a company and I want to work for them, and they're like, oh, well, we use AI generated art, blah, 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 blah. And I go, that's nice that you use it, but I'm actually a classically trained traditional artist. Would you like me to actually generate art from my own for your company? Then they have something that doesn't go out and can be reproduced by other companies because they have me. And that's what I was trying to say before. Those publishers are grateful for them taking that time to do something traditionally. And so they schedule it so it's possible. So it's more special. And basically then kind of go that route.
I think that's the answer. And I think we sort of said it in we sort of said it in the statement that Amanda was trying to write out, which was, we value our artists. And the thing is that I think what I was looking for was verbiage. We value the time taken, because it's important to add the verbiage of, yes, it takes longer for us to do this manually, but we value that. That's what I think I was looking for. If you're going to have to make a war on a culture, or you're gonna have to take a war on something like this, and you can't really count on the law helping you out. It's going to end up on us because the law won't be able to help us out because they can do a ban
Well,
all AI or not ban all AI, and if you get down to that, corporations will never allow that.
well,
So
wouldn't it be more or less people like us that are already going into court battles that are going to help
I don't
dictate this a little bit
think that's
better?
going to change anything. I mean, I think that it will. I think it will
It's going to
help.
start the process.
Yeah, but I think in the end, it's going to be the same war that the automakers got against machines. People are just going to call us Luddites and say that we are not, not accepting the march of technology. And so,
You know what I envision is going to happen. So the the computer generated AI thing is going to become such a problem that they'll create another program to forensic AI and look at each picture that goes through and say, oh, this is 100% generated by an AI with no fixes anywhere by human touch.
yeah, I think you're right. There will definitely be forensic AI, but I'm still talking about what Can was saying about it being a moral problem. If you're going to have a moral problem, then you have to attack it with a moral solution. And I think what Pepper had said is heading into that direction. The moral solution is the same thing we are doing with companies by trying to morally align them so that they will take in more people who are LGBT, who are more people who are of color, things like that, where it's the culture wants to see that. And I think the verbiage we need to go with is take the time.
Hmm.
Don't shortcut it with AI. It's not going to get what you pay for, sort of thing. Um, and then if we shortcut it with take the time as a sort of lead on that, then people are already expecting that, you know what, to do the morally correct thing, we're going to have to take more time and get a real artist in here and do this, as opposed to, yeah, whatever. You can say all you want about AI, but you know what? I'm making a buck, which is what I think is going to happen. But if we had a movement that was more like take the time, get a real artist, then you're already kind of sort of saying AI is not that good. You don't want it. For the people who are not really into it, because they are not going to be able to tell the difference between, the average mundane isn't going to be able to tell the difference between something that Can draws or you draw, um, and an AI. Your beautiful, all of your elegant watercolor work that you do, Pepper, can be mimicked by an AI enough that a mundane wouldn't know. I would know, Can would know, David would know, Andy would know. We would see that
Hmm.
because we're in the field. We know what's going on.
Hmm.
But this is like being able to tell the difference between, a type 3 transformer on a electrical pole and a type 2 transformer. Like, we don't know that stuff. I'm assuming that there's a type 2 and a type 3. I don't even know enough to know whether that's a thing. But I mean, it's one of those things. So I think you were leading into it. Take the time. I
Yeah.
think if we're going to have to take a moral movement, I think that the moral movement will be, you know what? Sure, AI is fine. It does the job, but you get what you pay for. Take the time. Go with the artists. Go with a real artist. I think that's the answer I was looking for, which is what is the verbiage on this attack? Um, yeah,
Yeah, it,
yeah.
it took me. What
Yeah.
happened was when I went very, very quiet, I started researching and I started looking at the automotive industry and what was happening there.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when I was able to start putting together my thoughts on what's going on.
Yeah, and I needed to
Hmm.
talk it out, and it's usually very frustrating for me and frustrating for Pepper. I'm sorry, Pepper. I love you, Pepper.
No,
Um,
it's
it,
fine. I just, it's one of those things of like this is starting to be discussed, and Like, there is a simple solution. There truly is a simple solution. We haven't gotten there yet. But once we get there, people are still not going to be happy with it. Like
Oh.
people who want to turn around something like turn around a project on a fast buck. Yeah, they're not going to like it, but you know what? It's going to be what it is.
Right.
I've
That's
worked.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If we let that go unchecked, without having something there,
Mhm.
then they're just going to continue doing what like we've done with all of our other societies where that's fine. I understand you want more jobs for people of color. We've passed the laws that say you can't do this, but you know what? I'm hiring all these white guys anyway. You know what I mean? Like that's you can't it was so vague. You can't delineate it, right? Because nobody was delineating some way to identify whether someone was more qualified than someone else. So it was still easy to get around that if you wanted to, and people did.
Mhm.
And what ended up solving it was a moral movement where, you know what? Because like I was doing it, I wouldn't play a game that didn't allow you to play as a female. I would never play. I just wasn't going to give my money to that because I
Yeah.
have always carried that flag, and you guys know that's the flag I carry. But
Mhm.
for me, that was my moral movement. If you didn't allow if your game didn't allow me to play as a female character, I wasn't playing that game.
Hey,
And that,
I like World of Warcraft because you can play as an overweight panda and its belly moves
there you go. I'm okay
while
with
it
that.
runs.
But that's the thing, and but that's a moral movement, and that was a different thing. I'm not watching this movie unless I find out that this movie was made by people who were diverse. If there's no diversity in this movie, I'm not watching it. That was a moral movement, and that
It,
more,
yeah.
I think, for diversifying our culture than any law that was put in place, because we've had anti-discrimination laws in effect for since the 60s, and that didn't move all the way through for 30 years. Nothing happened, and
But
then a
I,
moral
I do
movement took
wanna I do wanna point something out, Guy, and I'm not trying to derail what you're saying or anything. I'm trying to speak from experience on this because of what I've experienced in the creative and art field, working for other companies, and that is if you're not fast enough, they move on to another person that can do it faster.
hmm
And what you're stating is correct. Like eventually they will go to AI.
hmm it moves
That's
faster.
that's not so the person I was talking to is not affiliated with a company that I do know that does this. But I said what will be interesting is if they make their own AI generation thing with all the parameters that they give the artists. And then all of a sudden, like trading card games like Magic the Gathering no longer need their artists because they're just generating them themselves. Stuff like that.
Good
The
heavens,
problem with that is what Kyan said. 17 eyes, 14 fingers on one character. And then they're going to have to crawl back to the artist to actually fix and make it so that they can release the game on time. And they're going to have to pay more money.
yeah, except that I think that Can's right about that one. That's only going to last for a while.
It's
And
only going to last for a while, yes, but the thing is if they're on a tight deadline and they think it's actually already at that point and they already fired all their artists, then they're now in that pigeonhole where they now have to pay more money to the artists that they've just fired. What I'm saying.
were you heading in on that one, Can?
I think within a year that's going to be
A non-issue.
and not even a year, probably 6 months.
Because
Yeah.
people are making fun of them. I mean, people are already calling it out, so it's not going to last much longer.
You know
Yeah.
what else? You know what else you could do is you can really make this process all about the artist and do what some crypto does and do like proof of work,
Mm-hmm.
right? So let's say you're making a comic, and instead of just the comic, you have to turn in like a concept process and a mid ground process and everything that went into making the comic or a
Yeah.
picture.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can have a playback like Procreate does of you drawing the picture from beginning to end, and that could be part of the end process of the picture.
I mean, I think in what you're describing for digital artists, that will definitely help make sure and maintain that digital art is real art in that case, so they can't try to negate that at the same time.
Well, for
Which,
traditional too, it'd be like taking pictures and whatnot.
yeah, I mean, taking pictures of it, making videos. I mean, that's something that's been happening a lot. Like I have to do it too all the time. I have to take a picture of my pencil sketch and send it off to get approved. Then I take a picture of the next step and then the next step, and then everything has to be approved every single step. So
Mhm.
I get what you're saying.
So like you get those people who are like, "Yo, I like the final picture, but show me everything. Show me the
Yeah.
entire process that went into making this. Not only so that I can learn, but so that I can enjoy all of it."
And I mean, it's just it's good. We have those types of lines of thinking, but I mean, I agree with Kyan. 6 months to a year, it's probably not going to be an issue anymore.
Are you talking about the 9,000 eyes and 17 fingers?
Yeah, that's not going to be an issue.
Yeah, that's not going to be
That's
an
going to be
issue.
a non-issue. They're gonna get rid of that, and it won't be a problem. The people are making fun of it, so it's definitely going to drop at some point here. And I agree. That's definitely a thing that's going to occur.
I just don't like the fact that the people who support the AI artists that they think are so good are actually now bullying the people that are going to court
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
over this. And that's where I feel there's a disconnect of social on a social level for human beings to realize that they're defending someone who all intents and purposes are an actual artist did the work, and he or she feels like they were stolen from by someone else. Like they're defending the thief, but they're not, like, they're doing it in the most negative way.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't even know how to handle, because there are a lot of issues that bother me about this, that are very many aspects. But I think us as artists need to start really picking on the take the time aspect,
Mm-hmm.
because honestly, legitimately, at the moment, and this isn't going to last long either, at least at the moment, I feel that even the best story generators so far are easy to spot as contrived. And I don't think that'll last, but there comes a point where, okay, but it's just creating Harry Potter with different character names. It'll still be cool, it'll be interesting sounding, it'll be all great, but you'll notice that they're all Harry Potter. Or, you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to come up with radical, interesting concepts like you'd get with sci-fi or something like that. So for a while, there will be that. But then the question becomes, when it figures that out, what do we do then? And I think that's the next real concern.
Mm-hmm.
If it's creating Stephen King novels that are new and interesting and completely mind-blowing,
Yeah.
how do you say that's not allowed in society?
Well,
Then, I mean, because it's coming up with new stuff, you know?
and yet, what happened with the Google chat, the Google AI chat?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And they fired the engineer that's saying, I think this thing is legitimately gaining sentience. and they were burying it under. No, it's not. No, it's not. But there's a very strong chance with machine learning that that's going to happen very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because our AI technology is advancing really quickly in more recent years. I mean, I've seen it with Bill's job too. Like he'll program something, and then they'll put it out there, and then the moment that it's out there, it's like, oh, it's running really smooth, blah blah blah, and but they try to take self learning out of the equation so that it doesn't advance to a point which goes past the current level of technology. So, like in his job, like he basically is the one that tries to make sure that everything's running smoothly. But if something runs too smoothly and it goes beyond the level of technology that people are using, then all of a sudden his job becomes a lot harder.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, Andy's saying that she's hoping that they would never, they wouldn't be able to abolish the uncanny valley.
well, I mean,
So
I
that's
don't think so.
definitely something to think about, is that there is a certain amount of uncanny valley here. However, I've seen Unreal 5 and the new Unreal 5 with the metahumans. It's freaking scary. They don't look creepy. They look functionally human. So, they're not perfect, but they are certainly moving really quickly away from uncanny valley and into you can't tell anymore sort of land. And that is an issue, and that's the first frontier, because they were working on that with Final Fantasy Spirits Within, back in the 90s, and we were working on that, and that was the first time, or right at the turn of the millennium. So 20 years ago we had Spirits Within, which was uncanny enough to be creepy.
I remember it.
Metahumans, the metahumans aren't anymore. They're running algorithms that make them behave a certain way, and that's part of the problem, is that those metahumans, not only are they scarily accurate as far as like bone structure, face structure, eyes, stuff like that, but the algorithms now don't do a motion capture on where the person, an actor, is looking, but instead the algorithm's now doing a look at the possible targets and line the eyes up in the targets and hold for X number of seconds, move to a new target, hold for X number of seconds, which mimics the way we do things. And you can give it personality changes. Like you can have it be frenetic, where it's constantly looking around and upset. And when you make it frenetic, it raises the eyebrows, it opens the eyes, it looks around, it hunches down. It does all of the things that we do because it knows the functions of things. And that's part of what's getting scary, because it's responding. And that's the part that's getting really weird to me, is because the maquette. By the way, this is something I'm fascinated with, because one of the programs that I work with now has physics in it, and it takes the Genesis maquette and implies physics on it. So you can drop the maquette on the floor, and the maquette lands and falls on their butt because you dropped it on the floor. That's a markedly different feel. So I think that there will come a time where it's producing stories that we won't be able to. I don't know. I'm worried about that one. But the question is then, when it is, does it have the copyright?
Well, I have a question for you. You did yours, I did this one. Does it negate me doing it because I did it off of an AI generated comic script? Will I sell this for money? No. Is it fun to do? Yes.
I don't understand how that's related to what I just said, but okay. The answer is no. I don't. I even think you could probably still sell it. It's still great art. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's hysterical that we did that. Anyway, I think that was a very funny twist on what we're doing, but that definitely is part of what I was asking before as a question. We took a derivative of it, and even if you're talking about 30%, clearly we passed the 30% zone. But you're already, and so am I, by the way. You and I both are already saying we can't sell this. It's not ours. We know
it's not ours.
somewhere, we know in our brain that that's not right.
Yeah.
You're not alone. And that's what I came into this discussion tonight trying to figure out. Why? Because legally, and by every standard that's out there, we have absolutely every right to sell that. And there are a number of artists who wouldn't even blink about it as well. I mean, not just that. I mean, like, that's the other thing, is it's in our own community too. You and I both have agreed internally, and we came to this conclusion without talking to each other, that we would never sell those pieces. But what if we all decided to do AI generated story art books as a book to sell that would be cute and funny, and we sold it for, $5 or whatever? Now we're back to that same problem. Technically, we're correct. Legally, we're correct. Morally, and so that's what I was asking earlier. That's the question I was asking.
And Pepper said he couldn't stay till 12.
I know.
No, it's because I got worked up and now I'm starting to crash.
Yep. Well, that's right. You've got 2 whole minutes, so,
I still think you look great, Pepper.
Yeah, you do. You look beautiful, man. You look beautiful.
Kyan's trying to talk.
There's a third part to this very sticky thing.
Sticky wicket?
The sticky wicket. And we don't have time to go into it because I'm about to open a huge can of worms.
Oh,
yeah, but
damn.
you know what? If you open it, maybe we'll think about it, because maybe that'll make it so that I don't come from the wrong angle. I can always hope.
I just did that panel that used AI art. That was AI assisted. And I'm looking at, okay, I'm gonna use AI to help me with further panels, and I have no problem selling that comic. Even though I did that, because I'm not using AI in the same way you guys are.
Right.
I am not in that moral gray area.
Right. And
But
that's where I was earlier when I was saying, how is it different than me using maquettes?
Yeah.
In that place where you are, what you're talking about. How is that different than me using maquettes?
Because what I've been talking about in using AI art is as thumbnails and just generating ideas. And not specifically going with one. Like you saw me that night when I started generating a bunch of, I generated like 30 or 40 ideas for that panel. And suddenly an idea here and an idea here and an idea here, I took and I started to assemble this panel based on those little ideas that I was pulling from a bunch of brainstorms.
Perhaps AI will help us in the future instead of hinder us.
Well, and that's just it, is I'm looking at how here's all the bad things, and there's a ton of bad things over here. But there's also some good things over here.
Mm-hmm.
And like, so going into NDK, I wouldn't be able to sell this comic.
Right. And that's the sticky wicket I was talking about an hour ago whenever I said, now let's talk about this, because the law, if you put the law down on this one and the law just says no, then Brian can't use Can, I'm getting tired. I am so tired.
That's
Sorry.
fine.
Can't use that comic. And that is literally what I was talking about earlier. And that's so that's where I'm kind of talking. And then but then you talk about that and say the same thing with the other direction, which is if can't use AI to do that, let's just say we've decided that that's a rule, why can I use maquettes? And what Pepper was saying in defense of the maquettes, because I was modifying them, only holds for me because that was actually something a stipulation I put on myself. I required that I modified those maquettes because of that feeling. That feeling made me do that. But not everyone has that feeling. There are people who are tracing the maquettes as they stand directly out of DAZ. Now we're back to that same moral gray area. I don't want to necessarily get into it, but I'm glad that Brian brought it up, because that actually, I'm so sorry. I am so tired.
No,
I'm glad that Ken brought it up, because it's a thing that's the point that I think I was getting into. I'm very worried because of that zone right there.
okay. I just want to defend the AI background for you, Kyan, in one respect. Comic book and manga creators for years have been taking photos of real life cities and everything, tracing them and putting them in now modern terms. They basically recreate them and they do different things to do that. Most of the time, if they're generating a background and they find a picture online and they want to make a city, but they're using one part of that photograph, they're not giving credit to the photographer, but they change it to a point which works for their background. And what you're saying that you did is you took a whole bunch of little parts to what you were looking up and you created an image. So, in that term, you're not an AI generated solely. You took different parts of different images and you mashed them together and you made a different image. That's a collage.
And just for the record, that's not actually what would get you knocked out, because actually that literally was brought up between Amanda and me. And the ruling is, if you are trying to sell something that you just went to Midjourney and pulled it out, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
However, if there's some level of medium between it, but that's what I was therein was where I started with this discussion. So I think finally at the end of these 2 hours, we have hit the point that I started on, which is, okay, that's great. But what you just said was it's okay to photo collage because that's what people were doing, and then use that as your basis. Why is it not okay to AI collage and use that as the basis? Because that's essentially what we've been at that argument point, and that's where I was going. So, and I think that's where Can was headed, I believe, correct?
I think what happened was there was wording that was different because you were going into specific artists rather than keeping it general.
Right.
And what if I have a panel in which the AI generates and it's exactly what I need?
Mm-hmm.
And then I go back in and trace it.
And that's where I was going, and I was using specific artists for a reason, because I had been testing this concept. The test was, can I take AI art and tell the AI to do it in a style, and would a Google reverse image pull that out? And it doesn't. So there's no way to prove it. So can I take that? And then looking at it, it does kind of look like what I would do if I was trying to mimic his art. So how do you say that that's not right? Sort of thing. That's where I was going with it. And I know that you guys were having a problem with that because I kept bringing up Sam Yang on this one. And really, the whole reason I was trying to bring up Sam Yang was just because I had been testing this, and that brought to mind all of these questions that were coming up. Like, how do you defend this? Because it technically wasn't Sam Yang's art, but we're hearing from people out there, you're using my art. You're using my art. And I'm seeing that you can't prove that you're using my art. There's no way to prove it except a feel. And that won't pass in a court of law. And that's what I was having a problem with, was how do you defend that? And yes, it ends up on us because we'd be the ones having to go to court. And that's what I'm worried about with all these lawsuits. They're going to go to court and say, hey, they're using my style. And the lawyer is going to say, how do you prove that? How do you quantify that? And that's just enough doubt that the judge and or jury will say, you know what, you can't prove it, so dismissed. And that's going to be the problem. So that's what I was looking at initially on this one. How can we prove it? How do we prove it? How do you know? And so that was what I was looking at when I was talking about those things. So I understand that that was misleading. I apologize. But that's what I was saying before, Ken. I know I need to walk through this. And I'm so worried that no matter which way I walk through this, it's not going to sound like, it's going to sound like I'm defending it. And I was so worried about it because I'm like, I never do these right. My brain, just like Pepper, my brain is just not formed correctly. I end up seeing a problem from like way over here somewhere. And I have to walk back through the forest to get to a point where I can get other people and take them with me to that point. So I apologize. I knew it was coming whenever I started this. Thank you for putting up with it. I appreciate you people.
Well, it is after midnight.
And I have made my U-turn. Look at my U-turn. Isn't it beautiful? My U-turn is gorgeous. This is what we're after here, is U-turns. You can even do it.
I drew something.
Hey, there you go.
Cool. I'm sorry. I'm tired.
No, go to bed. It's after midnight. Yeah.
We're out.
We're going to be rolling credits here.
Yep.
Keep
And
your
Bye, everybody.
Andy, hopefully we will not have as much of a heated discussion later on. And actually, Andy, I think that's actually what we sort of unwritten rule expect of people. If you use AI art, you say something about it, which we did. And that's why, Pepper, what you and I were talking about, yes, we could sell that piece because we actually are entertained by the fact that we used AI to start it. And that's actually the whole point.
Yeah.
And so we certainly could sell that.
Like, I mean, I think it would be fun to sell, but like at the same time, I'm just like, if someone asks, like, well, was the script written by us? I'm like, I'm gonna be upfront and say no, it was AI generated, and I thought it was utterly ridiculous, and I had to do it. You know, and I did the artwork. Something wrote out what was on the thing, and I did the artwork. So
and we were entertained by it, but
yeah. But I mean, I'm not gonna make a book out of them.
Nope.
And I posted the other scripts I generated, like, for you guys, because I just thought they were a laugh. Like, I thought they were hilarious.
Miracle.
So, like, that's the only reason. If one of you guys want to actually take it and use it, like, by all means, it's public domain. So, anyhow, I'm like, my eyes are already shutting.
Mm-hmm.
I will say.
Anyways, we'll see you later, guys.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Run credits.
Running.